All right. Well, it's a little bit past 6:30, so why don't we get started? Thank you so much for joining everyone. We're very excited to continue the conversation on Germantown 2050, the Germantown Comprehensive Plan. My name is Craig Hebner. I'm a consultant with the firm Grace, and along with me tonight is my colleague Daniel Littlefield. And the other face that you'll see on the screen is from the village of Germantown, Jeff Fretzloff. Tonight, we have a couple things that we're looking to go through with you. And before I start, I just want to remind those who are just joining that this is a webinar presentation format. There's a potential and opportunity for you to give questions at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a Q&A that you can click on and submit any questions throughout the presentation. And those questions will be seen by myself and Donnie and Jeff. Because we only have an hour time slot, we may not be able to get to all the questions, but all of them will be recorded and will be responded to, if not at this meeting, after the meeting, to make sure that everyone is heard. So as far as what we're looking at tonight, we're going to give a little bit of an overview of where we are in the comprehensive planning process. We're going to share a little bit of what we've heard so far. The main point of this meeting, though, is we really want to look at the future land use and what we're defining as neighborhoods, districts, and corridors guiding the future vision for Germantown. We'll look at some specific areas in the village and specific redevelopment opportunities. We'll look at a new platform, a website that allows you to actually go and provide feedback on all the things that are presented tonight. And then we'll end with a visual preference survey to get some feedback on the visual character of what we're hoping to see. So before we actually go into the presentation, I would invite you to pull out your smartphone. This is a way that we're hoping to engage you during this hour-long presentation. And we're just going to ask the icebreaker question using a software called Mentimeter. So if you go pull out your phone, and you can see the directions on the screen here. If you go to menti.com, 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 you're going to be asked for a code, and that code here is these 8 numbers. So if you type in those 8 numbers, you'll go to a landing page, and I'm going to ask a question just to get our juices flowing here tonight and our engagement flowing, to ask just a fun question to get us started. So once you enter in that code, you're just going to see a landing page. There's no question yet, but I'm going to pull that up here in just a minute. All right, so again, if you enter those codes here, I'm going to ask a question, and we're going to get a response. All right, so again, non-Germantown related, or is it? What is the world's longest river? So on your phone right now, you're going to see 4 different options that are also on the screen, and you just tap on whatever answer you think is correct and hit submit. And as people are submitting, we're going to see the responses come up of what people think is the longest river. And you can see on the bottom here, we have 20 people participating, which is great. And we'll see who was right. It was the Nile River, in case you didn't know. No one thought Menominee in Germantown. So before I continue there, I'm going to go back to the presentation just to get our information going here. So again, as I mentioned, this Zoom meeting is just a presentation. There's not an opportunity at this meeting for you to verbally communicate, but we do want to make sure that it's clear that in the future, any Plan Commission meeting in the future that Germantown has is an opportunity for you to provide feedback. And again, you can type any questions during this meeting and we'll try to respond to those as well. A big emphasis at the bottom here that you see is a new website. If you haven't gone to it yet, Germantown2050.com. This is going to be a website where you are able to look at all what's discussed tonight and provide your feedback on this webpage to help us move forward. So where are we in the planning timeline? As you may recall, the comprehensive plan began actually in 2019, and we've had a series of public meetings in 2019 and a community-wide survey as well. As many things, as you're all aware, when COVID hit, it kind of put a delay in some of these things, but we're looking to pick back up where we left off. And this is the second of 3 public community-wide meetings that we plan to have. And you can see the slate moving forward into May and June and July, looking to continue to advance this planning process. As I mentioned, there was a community-wide survey, and there was over 1,800 respondents in the village, which is a really great response rate for the survey. And I just wanted to highlight a couple key responses here. So this slide shows some key highlights from the survey respondents. And what we heard a lot was residents really want to see some sort of attraction. What's the character or the amenity, the attraction that really draws people to Germantown? On the left side, you see 85% said that they would love to see a sit-down restaurant, family-style restaurant in Germantown. 61% said that there's just some need for some sort of entertainment or attraction in Germantown. In the middle, you see some of those types of potential attractions. These are all related primarily to recreation or parks, but there was an overwhelming response of different trails and connections throughout the village that was very high desire throughout the community. You also see beer gardens, an outdoor pool or splash pad type feature was a top highlight. Access to the Menominee River and other waterways throughout the village. And on the right, a reoccurring theme was really just more public access to the rivers and water environmental features throughout the village. When we look at undeveloped areas in the village, there were a series of questions of how should the village look at this undeveloped farm and agricultural land in the village. And this question specifically asked, what should happen for that future undeveloped area? And the question was, should it be allowed to develop, but only in a way that preserves the rural character? And you can see here, over 60% identified that they strongly agree that, or somewhat agree that there should be development, but it has to preserve that rural character in undeveloped areas of the village. This will be a reoccurring theme that we really want to stress with this comprehensive plan, is maintaining this rural character in the community. So what is future land use? These are 3 maps that exist today in your community. On the left is your zoning map. This regulates what can happen right now, what your property is zoned. In the middle is existing land use. That's how everything looks today. And then on the right is from your current comprehensive plan. This was back when it was created in 2004, what you as a community approved as your future vision. That's what we're updating as part of this comprehensive plan, the major portion of what this far right map should look like. So this image here shows a draft future land use map, and it looks a little different than what your current one does. And that's because we've retooled your future land use and defined it as a neighborhoods, districts, and corridors map. And what this means is it's really shifting from a parcel-specific future use to really a neighborhood or place-based solution. And the importance of that is really when any rezoning or future use takes place, it really shouldn't look at just one property. It needs to look at the larger vicinity and the place that that property is located in. So what your future land use is meant to portray is when any future use is proposed, that it looks not at that one property, but instead at all of these different neighborhoods, districts, and corridors. And I'm going to walk through kind of a couple examples of each of these and how this works, just like your future land use map does in guiding what future development can take place. So in this map, again, there's 19 different neighborhoods that are identified, and we'll go a little bit more into some of these later, but each one of these are boundaries that the Plan Commission and staff came up with. This is the feedback that we want to hear. Are these boundaries correct? Are the names of the neighborhoods correct? This is the type of feedback we want to hear. When we look at the districts, we have 5 different types of industrial districts in the village, 3 commercial or mixed use, and 2 rural or kind of open space districts. And then we have two corridors, one, the Land and Mequon Road corridor, and the Fond du Lac Avenue, or Victory Center, as we're naming it, which is some tie back to the heritage and history of that area. So how would one of these future land use maps or neighborhoods, districts, and corridors work? So what we have on the screen here is an example that would be included in your comprehensive plan. And every single neighborhood, district, and corridor will include a narrative, text description of what the general character is right now. So I have up on the screen a Spaslin neighborhood that we've named around Spaslin Park, and it would define that there's the types of residential uses that are here, the park that's there, the general boundaries, and other types of existing character. And then on the right side of the spread, you see the preferred future land uses. And this is really guiding, again, what the future use could be. And I just want to zoom in. So every single neighborhood, district, and corridor will have this table that goes along with the map. And what this table includes, if you look at kind of this first area, is the preferred future land uses. And there's a listing of several different types of future uses. And then you're either going to see an A, D, or a U. The D is desirable. That's what we want to see in green. The A is allowable. That could be occurred depending on certain circumstances. And the U is undesirable. It doesn't make sense necessarily for this specific neighborhood, district, or corridor. So when we look at the Spaslin neighborhood, specifically, when we look at the D's, desirable, residential single family, that's what we want to see more of, or open space, recreational is desirable. But we could also allow for institutional, like a school, commercial nodes only at specific areas, and we'll show a couple examples of that. And then you can see residential two-family and existing uses are also allowable. I'll get a little bit more into these other columns here, but you can see it also regulates and gives guidance into density and what the design of these neighborhoods, districts, and corridors should look like. So I'm going to walk through three different examples of a neighborhood and a district and a corridor to help hopefully describe this a little bit clearer. So this is what we've defined as the Rural Preservation District. You can see here this is primarily in the northern portion of the village. And you can also see on this map, the dashed brown line is the sewer service area or planned sewer service extension area within the village itself. So you can see it's primarily located outside of the entire sewer service area. What our consultant team has looked at is really part of the comprehensive plan is forecasting out 30 years, how will the village grow? And what we use as a consultant group is the Department of Administration forecasts what the projected growth for every community municipality will be. And for Germantown, it identifies that by the year 2040, there could be a potential 2,100 additional housing units in the village. So what we did here on the right is it shows, according to your current future land use map, if everything was developed according to the lowest density 5-acre lot parcels, this top diagram here shows that would consume 10,500 acres, which is essentially your entire northern half of the village. And as you go down the list here, again, these 2,100 housing units, depending on the density, it takes up less and less space within the village. All this is meant to portray is that a mix of housing and densities is important for the village. Yes, we want to make sure that the village stays rural in character, but we can't only allow for 5-acre lots or larger because it'll start to tear away and eat away at that rural character within the village. So back to the Rural Preservation District. In the narrative that would describe this Rural Preservation District, it talks about what's there. The majority of it is ag land or environmental corridor. Nearly a third of this area is actually environmental corridor, wetlands and river corridors and whatnot. And the continued desire for this is just that. It is to maintain that ag use, open space use, and environmental use. But there are circumstances where individual property owners do want to divide off and provide individual lots or potentially even some subdivisions. So what we're proposing as part of this development, your existing regulation, your future land use map says that there should be a density of 1 unit per 5 acres with a minimum 5-acre lot size. And the proposed change here is actually to increase that individual lot size density of 1 unit per 20 acres. So a much lower density for anything that is 4 lots or less. And if there's a subdivision, meaning 5 lots or more are created, that it would be required to be a conservation subdivision. And I'm going to come back to that new proposed density in just a minute. But a conservation subdivision, in case you're unfamiliar with that term, is also known as a cluster subdivision. And on the image here, what you see is 2 examples of how a property could be developed. They're both the exact same property, just developed in different ways. So the top image shows if it was all developed in a traditional 5-acre lot, it would take away all of the land and basically not retain any of the ag land or environmental features. And the bottom shows a conservation or cluster subdivision. And what this does is it still maintains all the same number of lots, so a property owner could still develop all the same number of lots. But what it does is retain all of the environmental rural character qualities of this area, the crops, the ag land, the pastures, environmental corridors. So the proposal in the rural preservation is really to require that any 5 lot or greater subdivision would be a conservation type subdivision. And to give you one more kind of example, this is a scenario plan again for one specific property in the village. This is a 33-acre property about. This property is just shown as a scenario. It's not intended, or the property owner doesn't necessarily want to develop this way, but it's just to show an example of how this could look. So again, on the left side is your existing regulation. So the existing regulation says, okay, on this 33-acre lot, I could divide this into 6 lots that are 5 acres in size. And it would require a new road to come in to access all these lots. And what this does is, you may think, okay, this isn't horrible, but what this does is it eats away at the environmental corridor that's here, and each individual property owner has a little bit of access. But imagine if this happened at every single 30 or 40-acre lot adjacent to this. You would start to basically see all this developed, and you would see the residential properties all along this road. So on the right side is the 2 different scenarios of what we're proposing. In the middle shows if it's only a single lot or 4 lots or less, that they would be required to be 20 acres in size instead of 5 acres. So this shows that it would only allow for 1 residence on this lot. And on the right side, if they did want to do a greater than 4 lots, they would have to do a conservation subdivision. And what this shows is, again, all of this open space is basically retained either as ag land or open space. So again, from the road, all you would see is this rural character open space, and maintain that character in the rural preservation area. So to close out on that rural preservation, again, this is the table that's along with that. The desire, again, is only really for open space and agricultural or hobby farming. That's the desire. But what we do allow for is for residential single family, but it needs to meet those certain design criteria that I just went through. The different densities, the 1 per 20 acres for 4 lots or less, and 1 to 5 acres for a conservation subdivision. This is a lot of information, obviously, that you're seeing, and all of this information, again, is going to be on the Germantown2050.com website. So even as I'm talking here, I would welcome you to go to that site, and at the end, at the second half of this meeting, we're going to walk through and actually show you how to navigate and provide some of those different types of feedback. But I stopped at this slide because I did want to remind you on the Zoom meeting right now at the bottom, there is a Q&A question portion where you could submit questions, and the panelists are going to see that, myself, Donnie, and Jeff. We are kind of doing this live, so my thinking is that I'm going to go to the next one, and then we can respond kind of to the previous question as we continue to move forward. So I just wanted to remind participants, please give your feedback. We'll do our best to respond to all of them. But if we don't at this meeting, again, all these questions will be responded to moving forward. So the next area that I want to discuss is a district. We're defining it as your village center district. And this is really the heart or the center of Germantown. The general boundaries, Main Street you see is right in the middle of this district, Freistadt Road to the north, Mequon to the south. We see River Lane is the west boundary, and the railroad tracks are the eastern boundary here. And what's the desired future? Obviously, for a long time, Main Street has wanted to be the life and the activity, the historic excitement of the village, and um, it really just it needs some help. And the hope of this comprehensive plan is to not just look only at Main Street, but really at the larger area. And the benefit of doing that is really creating more of a destination for this entire area and how to connect Main Street to Mequon Road, where you have more visibility. And that's done through a combination of recommendations, both transportation, circulation related, and development related. But really the key for this village center district is continuing the types of uses that you see right now. It's your commercial corridor. We want to see commercial thrive in this area. We have the Menominee River running through this. We want to capitalize and get as much access to the public to the Menominee River. And we want this to be more of a memorable spot that residents and business owners can be proud to say, this is Germantown, and this is what Germantown looks like. So any future development needs to really embrace that. So what would that look like? What we're proposing is a combination of different public spaces that relate to existing developments and potential new development. And a big part of this is working with your private sector and with existing property owners. Some of you potentially on this call here, the village wants to work with you and make your business and entity venture successful. And what we're seeing in the market is really this pedestrian-friendly, place-based interventions. You're no longer seeing commercial corridors. Yes, they still need to be vehicle-friendly and provide enough parking, but they can't just do that anymore. They need to have memorable outdoor seating, and with COVID, obviously, there's a lot more desire for that as well, to make nice spaces that people want to sit outside and enjoy. And it also needs to be different amenities that the community wants to see. So in the bottom, you see some examples of splash pads that could work well with private sector, retail, restaurant type uses. So on the social pinpoint on the website that we've created, Germantown2050.com, you're going to see a couple different actual design interventions. And this is one example of that design intervention within the Village Center District. This is along Mequon Road at the intersection of Division Road. And this is the existing Blackstone Creek golf course area. And this has long been discussed for potential redevelopment. The village wants to work with a developer to see this reimagined. But the keys to this is really, one, how does the public gain access to the beautiful amenity that is the Menominee River and that amenity? But also, how can this be successful for the private sector to make this beneficial to both the public sector and private? And what we're showing for a development intervention here is along Mequon Road, a mix of uses, both retail to capitalize on that visibility and residential uses. But you also see, again, the potential for a splash pad or maybe an ice rink in the winter that would be public facing, that people could see and draw people into this development. As you move back towards the site, you see additional residential townhomes or single family or duplex lots as part of this. And you also see what we're calling a tree-lined pathway. And that tree-lined pathway goes all the way from Mequon all the way to Main Street. And what the hope is for that is this is a very pleasant way for residents to stop, park at this retail destination, and walk all the way to this northern edge where potentially there's more residential, maybe there's a nature center, maybe there's scenic overlooks for the Menominee River where people can fish or canoe, kayak launch. But the hope again is really to tie Main Street to Mequon Road, both through development and through public space that's created. This is another example in the village center. This is along Mequon Road again, and at the intersection of Pilgrim Road. And again, what a lot of communities are starting to see is the shift away from typical outlot development that just has parking surrounding it and creating more of a destination pedestrian-friendly experience. So what this sketch is showing is potentially reimagining this corner as some new development that is a little bit closer to the street edge and has public places with outdoor seating, some plaza spaces, some trees, potentially different architectural elements that, again, make it attractive and more desirable for pedestrians to gather, kind of park once, go to a restaurant or a retail space, and frequent both the existing businesses that are here and any future that could occur as well. So the Village Center District, this is the table, the future land use table, again, that's going to regulate potentially what the future uses could be. So again, if you look at the green, D stands for desirable, A is allowable, but would require different design requirements or discussion depending on where that property is located. And U is undesirable, what we don't necessarily see happening for this area. So again, the push for this is commercial use. We want to see commercial thrive, but also mixed use, commercial and residential. Residential assists desires. The more rooftops that exist, the more the potential for different uses like restaurants that will be attracted to this area. So those are the types of uses that we see as desirable for the village center. So with that, I do want to pause again, and we're going to look to maybe just answer one or two questions that are coming up from the Q&A session. So I'm going to ask Danya or Jeff to maybe look at some of the questions that were either from the rural preservation or from this village center, and we can try to answer one or two, maybe spending 3 to 4 minutes trying to do that.
I can go ahead and say we've had many comments coming in from the Q&A, so thank you everyone who's been sharing comments. For the questions, we've been answering them in the chat. So anything that came in as a question, we've answered in the chat there, and I know Jeff is working on that. Thank you, Jeff. So I don't see a question that we can respond to now that hasn't been sort of addressed, and I know people are also typing some. Okay, so here's one. Is the future land use information just presented on the website at this time? Yeah, so
I can answer that, Donna. Yeah, that's a great question. So it is on both the village website, the normal village website that they've always had, and our Germantown 2050 website. The plan is also to print a hard copy of this presentation and the future land use map at Village Hall. It's not there yet, but I would say by the end of the week, Jeff, you can correct me, we'll print that out and have that at Village Hall for any of those who would like to come in person. As well, at our future plan commission meetings, this will be something that is visible for the public to view.
Yes, we will have available information for people to view if they want to stop at the Village Hall. They can also send an email to us, and we will try and send them a sort of a reduced version of the visual graphics and other information that was discussed this evening.
Great. Thank you for these questions. Please continue, and if we didn't answer your question, we'll try to do our best again during this hour-long meeting. We just want to make sure we are able to show you everything. And again, if we can't get to your questions, we will show those later on the village website, germantown2050.com. So continuing forward, the last example that we wanted to show is actually a couple different districts and neighborhoods, but we're defining it as the Holy Hill area. And this Holy Hill area, as it is stated, is basically at the interchange of the freeway and Holy Hill Road. And there's been industrial development that all of you are aware of and have seen. And the question is, what starts to happen surrounding that industrial development, and how does the future use of this occur. And this is where we're looking for definitely feedback from the community, from property owners, of what this would like to look like. And we've been asking this previously as well at previous meetings, and also through the survey. So what this slide shows are two different development alternatives or future land use scenarios. Both of these scenarios are again on the Germantown2050.com website, and we want to hear feedback. And they're very similar, and that doesn't mean that this is set in stone by any means. We want to hear your feedback as far as what's desirable or not. But let me just explain a little bit of what you're seeing here. So on the left, if we focus on that alternative one, the orange color identifies a mixed use commercial type use. This is capitalizing on the visibility of the freeway that commercial uses could be attracted to this area. So that all along, basically the entire stretch, you see this mixed commercial use. This would not allow for just multifamily residential. It would need to have some sort of commercial component and more of a destination neighborhood type feel versus just multifamily residential. This orange also identifies that it could be industrial. It's mixed commercial and industrial, but again, the hope is that it's more of a commercial oriented use along the freeway there. Moving to the east, you see this brown color, and this identifies heavy industrial. And that heavy industrial would be defined as what you're seeing right now happening, the Briggs and Stratton development example, and the adjacent industrial developments that surround that along Holy Hill Road. So what you're seeing is on both sides of Holy Hill Road, that brown heavy industrial is slated on both sides of the road. And also just on the other side of the railroad tracks to the south, you also see this brown heavy industrial color. Moving again to the east, farther east, on the other side of Goldendale Road, in alternative one, you see a light pink color, and this identifies as future use light industrial. And light industrial is different than heavy industrial, both from a type of use and intensity of manufacturing uses, industrial uses that could occur, but also the size of the buildings themselves. And we have a couple of visual preference surveys at the end of this meeting, if you're able to stick around, and give you some examples of what you think would be appropriate or not appropriate for different types of industrial character for this area. Along the south, again, if we move south, south of the railroad tracks, south of that brown heavy industrial, you see a combination of purple light industrial, and then this is Freistadt Road on the south end, and you see, again, a combination of the orange mixed commercial, and then yellow. Yellow is meant to represent medium density residential use. The final corner here, final area of the Holy Hill, you see adjacent to the existing lots that are along Isabel Farms Drive. And there's vacant land on the north and south of those areas, and that's, again, identified as future use for medium density residential. What you'll see also on here is a series of green spaces. The light green are all existing environmental corridors, whether it's river corridors or just wetland areas. All those are proposed to be retained as part of this. And the dark green is future green space or stormwater facilities that would be required as part of this development. What you'll see is along Holy Hill Road, the intention to really create a green buffer to all of the industrial development that would include stormwater facilities, but would also include future trail and connections for pedestrians and any residents to utilize. And that dashed line is representative of trails along all the environmental corridors that the village has a desire to implement and connect residents to utilize along the entire environmental corridors. So alternative two on the right side is very similar, but the key difference is really the northeast corner. In alternative one, you see the entire northeast corner of Goldendale and Holy Hill is light industrial. And on the right side, you see it's a mix of light industrial and then a strong new green space buffer that would buffer then future residential use. And this future residential use is along Fond du Lac Avenue that you see here, located on the far right side of your screen. So alternative 1 and alternative 2 are very similar, but the key difference again is this northeast portion. And what would that northeast portion look like? We wanted to give you just one example, not how it could develop for sure, but in alternative 2, all of the different yellow areas that we identified as future residential use, we drew some conceptual conservation subdivisions again. So conservation subdivisions, again, have an emphasis on open space and public space that the residents would utilize as shared open space that could be home to different park space or other amenities that the neighbors would understand that it's part of the development. But what you see in all these, again, is green space and connection to the different environmental corridors that either exist or are being created as part of this development. So the Holy Hill Gateway District, again, if we look specifically at the Holy Hill Gateway, which is the industrial area, the desired use really is that industrial, mixed commercial industrial use as the preferred future use. But then when we look at the outer edges of that industrial area, we would look for other uses such as residential that we were showing in the different examples. So with this Holy Hill area, again, on the Germantown 2050 website, all of these alternatives are shown there. And it's actually 3 different kind of a neighborhood district and another district. So there's 3 different districts within that Holy Hill area that we'll show you on the Germantown 2050 site that we're looking for feedback from that. Any questions, Danya, that I'm missing that have come in since I've been talking?
There's a few that will be great to answer live here. Jeff has been keeping up with us and answering many of them by typing. So one is bicycle. Would bicycles be allowed along the trails shown in these alternatives?
Yeah, so let me just go back to that slide because I can show you a little bit more. And it's very conceptual right now, but the key would be major trails. So along Holy Hill Road and to the south along this environmental corridor would be what I call a primary multi-use trail route. So yes, that would absolutely be a paved trail as the desire to be bike friendly. There's potential in other corridors that it may be a compacted crushed stone that still could allow for some bicycle use, but it really is meant for more walking. All of those decisions will be, a public decision, that those trail designs will be future decisions after the comprehensive plan starts to be implemented. But the desire would be to have them bike and pedestrian friendly.
Great. I also see, let's see, there's a question, maybe Jeff can help us with this one, but someone is noting here that there is active development in the village, specifically within or bordering the rural area. And then asking if the 2050 map is updated with current development plans. If not, is there a place to see current development plans or proposals that are currently underway? And noting that this information would be helpful as residents are reviewing the proposed map. So if we can't answer that entirely, we'll either type an answer or post one.
Yeah, I'm going to try and get to the one in just a bit.
Perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a good type response. And that's a good comment, and it will kind of lead me into what I think would be good, which is that type of feedback. If you're aware of development too, that the village and Jeff is very aware of what's happening. But if a map shows something that you feel is contradictory to what's going on, this social pinpoint website, Germantown2050.com, allows you, any individual, to basically drag and provide a comment that will allow that. So with that, I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen and let Danya share her screen, and she's going to take you to Germantown2050.com and show you how this works. And I think, Danya, if you can, when you're ready to speak, let's just go right to the map. Just go right to the go to the map function.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so and we've gotten some questions about this too as you're looking at the presentation tonight, how to give comments on the map. So this is the landing page that you'll see when you go to germantown2050.com. And there's some information on here about the process, but I'm going to specifically walk through the interactive map. So this button here, and you can see this, right, Craig? Just want to, okay, great. Click on the button that says go to the map. And once it loads, you will see we have an interactive map here of the neighborhoods, districts, and corridors draft map for your comments. So a little bit of an intro to the process, and then I'll show you how this works. So this whole interactive map, you can see pretty much everything that you've seen tonight also exists on this interactive map activity. So, we can't do an open house like we would typically do for this type of meeting. So think of this like Post-it notes on a big map, like a bunch of materials we've brought into a room for you to comment on. We want to hear what you have to say about what we're showing this evening. So first of all, you can zoom in and out of this interactive map, scroll around, find where you live, or a place that you're particularly interested in. And at any point as you explore the information over here on the left, you can drag a pin down somewhere, anywhere on the map. You can get really specific if you zoom in and type a comment here. And you will have options to leave your name and your email. You can even attach a photo if you have sort of an idea and an inspiration photo that you'd like to share as well. Just a little quick note, if you do share a photo, we have to allow that comment to be seen on the map. So if you don't see your comment show up and you've attached the photo, that's why. We will review that and get it on the map as soon as we can. If you don't attach a photo, it automatically appears on the map. So this is great for you all, because you will be able to not only give your own feedback, but read other people's feedback as they give comments. And we have these different kind of category prompts for different types of feedback that would be helpful as you explore this map. As you, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. So as you move down, we have the kind of welcome information. And I did want you to know that if you would like to see the PDF of the map in addition to the interactive version, it's linked here. So you can then, download and have the PDF version of the neighborhood, districts, and corridors map. And the complete table is also linked in this interactive map. And then there's also a little bit of an introduction chapter, sort of text about this process. You can also link to right here. I won't click on it, but these links are just kind of available right there. As you go through the tabs, different, just as we have in this presentation, the neighborhoods, districts, and corridors all sort of are highlighted on the interactive map. And you also see that the corridors are listed and the districts are listed. Each one of those is a hyperlink where if you click on it, you will get the draft, in process. You can see we don't have all the photos. If you want to share a photo with us, please feel free of some of your favorite places around the community. But the draft kind of preferred land use table and description of that particular place is linked for each of them. You can kind of see here all these links. So then the focus areas that Craig has been showing are also in this map. So we have the information about the Rural Preservation District, just taking a little bit of time to load, but all of that is linked here, and you can leave feedback about that right in the tab, or if you prefer, you could drag a pin into this area and give feedback that way as well. Same thing with the Village Center. We've got some indicators of different locations on the PDF, and that information that Craig showed is also linked here about the Village Center. And then again, a place to leave feedback. And same with the Holy Hill area. And you can see just little notes, and Craig kind of mentioned this, the Holy Hill area of alternatives that we're showing are made up of 2 districts in a neighborhood. So that's why, you know, it's important when you're looking at the kind of table, neighborhood districts and quarters table, that's, you know, there's 3 places to look for that alternative and what the table looks like for that. All right, and then just a little note, as you're, you know, if you're curious and just kind of reading what everyone, instead of clicking on each pin as you're kind of wanting to read, there's an activity tab, and you can kind of scroll through and see all the different comments. You can also kind of agree and disagree with different people's comments if you want to give feedback that way as well, if someone says something you agree with. All right, so I hope that's answered a lot of questions about where to find the information you're seeing this evening and how to give feedback, and I will turn the presentation back over to Craig.
Perfect. Thank you, Danya. Please share this website, you know, with your neighbors. We really do. It would be great if you're willing to share good photos of your neighborhood. What we love to do with these plans is actually just include, if you have a great house that you're proud of, that you wouldn't mind having in a document. You know, if we think your house looks great too, we can include it in the actual report itself. But that's really a cool way for you to be connected with this plan and actually be included. And it doesn't just need to be your house. It can be a great trail or a great park that you love, anywhere within the village that you would love to see that. With that, we're going to close out the meeting here. We have about a little over 10 minutes, and we're going to do a visual preference survey. And that visual preference survey is going to try to get the idea of what different uses and the character of those uses you would like to see. So again, similar to last time, if you pull out your phone again, we're going to do an interactive survey. So if you pull out your phone, at the top of the screen here, you're going to see a code. So first, if you go to menti.com on your phone or tablet, menti.com, and you type in that 8-digit code, 58749480. And the question should come up then. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So on your phone, then you should see this question come up. And what we're going to go through is a series of different questions. And on your phone, you're going to be able to tap or slide whether you think these images, this type of development, is a good fit for Germantown's Village Center, Mequon Road area. So once you slide on your phone and hit submit, we're going to start to see responses. And I'm going to just, let me just make sure that this is showing here. Yeah, there we go. So now on the screen here that you're seeing is the response to that. So these are gonna the images that we're looking at. And as you respond, we can see the different types of response rates that we're getting. 10 people are saying they think it's a very good fit, and then it's transitioning down. You can also skip questions if you just don't want to answer. But what this is showing is kind of a sliding progression of what you think this image is appropriate or not for, again, the village center, which is the main heart or kind of center of the village. And if you aren't able, I'm going to go through these a little bit quick. If you're not able to respond to these, again, this visual preference survey, either tomorrow or the day after, is going to be live on the Germantown 2050 website. So you're going to be able to go there and retake this visual preference survey and provide feedback. But this is just a fun way for those who are on this call to get feedback. So here's another example, another question. What do you feel that this type of development would be a good fit for the village center? And you can see on the bottom right, we have 20 or so people, 21 people responding, which is great. You can see a little bit lower here for this image. All right, here's another image. To what extent do you feel this would be appropriate for Germantown's Village Center, Mequon Road? And this may look familiar. This is down the road a little bit. This is Mequon Town Center, for those who are familiar. Would this be something that's appropriate for Germantown, a similar type of development? Good responses there. Staying in the village center again along Mequon Road area. What about this image? Is this a type of development that would be a good fit? We're getting a little lower responses on this one. All right, next question. How about this type of development? This is showing housing surrounding an old quarry that was filled in with water and includes fishing and paths around the water. And another example, would this be a good fit for Mequon Road Village Center area? Another example, a built example here. Does this make sense or seem like it would be appropriate in the village center? It includes both commercial and also has residential uses above. And I think I have one more here. I'm gonna skip that one. Okay. So if you, on the top of your screen, if you don't see it yet, just tap the go to slide, because I did just skip one there, but this is an open-ended question. So here you're actually gonna be able to type in a response. So either with the images that we showed or a different example, what type of uses or development types would you like to see in Village Center, Mequon Road area? So as you type in a response here, it's going to pop up on the screen, and we're actually going to see what people would like to see. And if you saw an image that you did like, you could just say, you know, the images that were shown, or you could say a multitude of different things. So this is great. We're starting to get some feedback here. It should allow you as well, I believe, to type in multiple answers. So if you typed in one response and you thought of something else, feel free to type that in. So we can see here the responses we're getting: golf course, mixed business and residential, outdoor gathering spaces and dining, river access, walkable shops and restaurants, not housing, high density residential to support walkable, eclectic restaurants and bars, coffee shops, space for plaza where residents can congregate, restaurants, coffee shops, community space, artwork, water features, a destination, mixed use, restaurants and shopping, pool and recreation area, walkable paths, strong retail but some residential, museum, ways to access by bike. These are all amazing. Keep them coming. This is awesome. And again, as I mentioned, all of these questions, again, are going to be on the Germantown 2050 website. So I'm going to keep moving because I want to get into a couple different development type examples in different areas in the village. But thank you. These are all great, great examples. So moving now on your screen, you're going to see a new set of questions, and this is specific to the Holy Hill area, specifically industrial uses. So to what extent do you feel that this image, this type of development is a good fit for Germantown's Holy Hill Industrial Park area? And just as a heads up, the next slides are going to be several industrial pictures. So if you're looking for a different picture, you're not going to see it. But this is just meant to get your feedback on different industrial development and what's desirable. And I know you may be thinking, well, industrial development is not desirable at all to me, and that's okay to say as well. But there is industrial zone land and industrial development that will occur, so we want to make sure that it's designed in a way that's appropriate. How about this example? What type of or do you feel that this type of development is good for Germantown's Holy Hill Industrial Park area? And again, I have about, I think, eight slides for this. And I know we're getting close to 7:30. I do appreciate everyone's time. After this visual preference survey, we will be closing the meeting. But if you do need to exit, that's understandable, and just ask you again to go to germantown2050.com and continue to give your feedback. How about this image? Do you feel that this type of development is a good fit for Germantown's Holy Hill Industrial Park area? And this image, is this type of development a good fit for Germantown's Holy Hill Industrial Park area? And another industrial example, is this a good fit for the Holy Hill Industrial Park area? And sorry, this image is blurry. Hopefully it's better on your phone, but I picked a bad image for this one. But is this one a type of development good for Germantown's Holy Hill Industrial Park area? And I think this may be the last slide, either one or two on the industrial images. And then similar to what we asked for the Village Center, so this is an open-ended question again. What development types or uses would you like to see in the Holy Hill Gateway area? And feel free on this one to expand outside of the kind of industrial specific uses. There is going to be absolutely industrial development surrounding what's existing now, but feel free to add other uses that you would like to see surrounding that industrial use. Appreciate all these comments. These are all great. Recreational trails. I like the vision that was presented. Single family housing, not cluster housing. Light industrial, warehousing. Commercial mixed use along freeway. Keep it very rural. No more industrial. Hiking, biking, walked trails paved. Rural feel, bike trails, green space. A welcome sign. Mixed use, some medium density residential. Compact industrial with some residential for people who work in the area. And casual dining. Great comments. Barriers between housing and industrial, light manufacturing, heavy, if straightforward, assembly, or even larger components? Great. And one more set of questions. This is going to be specific to the Rural Preservation District. So again, this is the northern portion of the village, primarily the unsewered area of the village. So to what extent do you feel that this type of development is a good fit for Germantown's northeast or northern Rural Preservation District? And again, if you didn't catch up or lost it, you can, on the top of your phone, if you're behind, it'll give you the prompt to say go to slide. Great. Next question. So staying in that rural preservation, what about this image? To what extent do you feel that this type of development is a good fit for the rural preservation area? Great. How about this image? Would this type of development be a good fit for Germantown's Rural Preservation District? This one may be leading the pack so far. And I think the last one here, to what extent do you feel that this type of development is a good fit for Germantown's Northeast Rural Preservation District? All right, so the final kind of open-ended question again, looking at the Rural Preservation District, what type of development types or uses would you like to see in this area? Parks, parks, parks. I feel like Leslie Knope for those parks and recreation enthusiasts. These are great, great comments. Nature, walking trails, conservancy, less roads, 1 acre lots, large lots of housing, past local farms, clustered homes with larger open land, maximize green space, conservation, large homes on big lots, no cluster housing, maximum 1 acre lots, 20 acre or larger parcels, bike paths, park access is desired. Small lots to preserve open space. Fewer big houses on big lots, smaller lots, compacted trails, nature conservancy. No subdivisions. Tighter actual residential areas. Preservation, education use. Great, great feedback. Fishing ponds, linear parks. So we've reached the end of our interactive survey questions and also the end of our formal presentation. So I want to thank everyone very much for taking the time. I know we're 5 minutes over the hour time slot, but really do appreciate you joining this. This is really just the beginning of continued feedback. I would strongly encourage and really hope that you can take some time to go to germantown2050.com. If you're not able to, please share it with a friend or with your colleague. We want residents, businesses, property owners, all to give the feedback. Again, if you felt like you really wanted to be heard tonight, there's future plan commission meetings that we want to accept and receive your feedback. So those plan commission dates are all listed on the village's websites, or you can reach out to the village and Jeff with any questions. But really hope you can look at what's proposed for your future land use and help us guide this document and vision moving forward. So thank you to everyone, and I hope you have an enjoyable evening.